by the name of Charles Edward Stewart landed on the Western Isles of Scotland. He came with 7 men, few arms and little money, in hope of regaining the throne of Great Britain for his father. The government called him the Old Pretender, his supporters the King over the water. The 19th of August, the Royal Standard is raised on the shores of Loch Shiel at Glenfinnan, and the proclamation of King James VIII of Scotland and III of England was read out by the Marquess of Tullibardine. And so begins the story of the 1745 Jacobite uprisings. The army were quick on the move, leaving Glenfinnan to engage Sir General John Cope's army at the Corriach Pass. Cope decided to not attack the Jacobite army and retreat and go to Aberdeen. Charlie and his army had the whole of Scotland. They marched right down to Perth, getting stronger as they went. By this time, Johnny Cope and his army had left Aberdeen by boat and landed at Dunbar. Charlie, now at Perth, had 2 lieutenant generals, Lord George Murray and James Drummond. They advanced to Edinburgh and took Edinburgh without bloodshed. Scotland was in the hands of the Jacobites. Now, the Jacobites had taken Edinburgh without bloodshed. They had basically took Scotland. A few castles were of really not any importance to the Jacobite cause. They needed a battle. From Dunbar, Sir General John Cope marched to Haddington. On Charlie hearing this, he marched his army out to engage Sir General John Cope. I'll take you there, to the village of Prestonpans and Tranent. The Highland Army are now encamped in the village of Tranent. Overlooking, behind me, down there, is the army of Sir General John Cope. Now, John Cope had picked his ground well. If you look down there, to the right where the houses are, is where his big guns were facing. In front of the Highlanders was a marshy and mushy ground, impassable for a Highland charge. Charlie and his army had some work to do. The Highland army were around 2,500 men, the same amount down there that Johnny Cope had. Johnny Cope's men were trained for European warfare. This was an exchange of musket fire. 2 shots per minute, 3 if you're a good musketeer. The Highlanders fought guerrilla tactics. They fired their muskets if they had one and ran in, the famous Highland charge. I'll take you soon to the ground where the army attacked the government army. Charlie met up with his lieutenant generals and had a meeting. It was advised not for the Highlanders to run across this ground. They met up with a local farmer, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Anderson took them 3 abreast, round the side of Tranent, coming down to surprise attack the government army. This place is called the Riggenhead Farm. This was called the Riggenhead Defile. I'll take you there. This is the Riggenhead Defile, marched 3 abreast. A silent march. Some say that every dog in Tranent was barking on the sound of the Highlanders moving to surprise attack Sir General John Cope. The Riggenhead Defile march at 3 abreast was done around 5 o'clock in the morning. It was dark, so you would not have been able to see any of this. To my right is the power station of Cockenzie. Just further to the left is where the army of Sir General John Cope was encamped. Let's go and pay him a visit. This is the end of the Rigginghead defile, marching three abreast silently. Now I'm going to take you to where the government army were encamped and ready to fight the Jacobites. Come follow me. On the early hours, the 21st of September, 1745, on this very ground, the Highland Army charged across. A Gaelic-speaking, tartan-clad army, supporters of King James. Over to my right here, right over there, is the end of the Rigginghead defile. And it's on this very ground that the Highland Army charged against Sir General John Cope. This is the wagon way, this piece of ground here, from Tranent, Prestonpans and Cockenzie, taking coal. This very ground, this railway track, is what the Highlanders charged against Johnny Cope's army. To my left over there, where the houses are, is the army of Sir General John Cope. An army of around 2,500 men. 6 big guns, mortars, infantry. It must have been a spectacle. Gaelic-speaking Highlanders, wrapped in tartan, white cockades on their bonnets, broadswords running in, shouting deathly whirls in Gaelic, die sons of dogs, so forth, so forth. Supposedly, history says, so they say, it was a surprise attack. I think it was a surprise attack on, let me see, the men were not ready for this. This government army, they were new recruits. They were trained for European warfare. This was not European warfare, this was a guerrilla war. This, the Highlander, he fired his musket, his fowling piece, whatever fire piece he had, threw it down and ran in with the broadsword, hacking and slashing and taking no prisoners. So Prestonpans was a victory for the Prince. Over there, the vanquished, the Hanoverian army, the Whig government. Johnny Cope fled, taking 400 dragoons with him. One man stood his ground, a man called Colonel James Gardner, born in Linlithgow and lived in Prestonpans. He died in Tranent Manse a few hours after the battle. He died looking to his house. I'll take you there. Colonel James Gardner died, dying mortally wounded near a thorn tree, in sight of his home. Must have wondered what went through his head that day, knowing his army were routed, defeated. His home here was used as a hospital by the Jacobite army. And I'll show you his monument. This statue was erected in 1853 for Colonel James Gardner. James Gardner died in sight of his house. He died for his king and for his religion. He died a hero. Charlie won his day. The Highlanders were invincible. This was the mistake that the Bonnie Prince was to make in his campaign. This was to lead up to the mistake at Culloden Moor.